The observation deck of the Kanara's Pride had never been silent before Rhea Talon walked in that evening. The massive viewing port stretched across the entire wall, displaying the swirling nebula of Sector 7 in shades of violet and gold. Normally, this was where the cubs gathered after training sessions, their chittering voices echoing off the metal walls as they wrestled and played under the watchful eyes of their elders. But when Rhea stepped through the doorway, every voice stopped. She moved with her usual grace, her boots making soft clicks against the deck plating, but something was different. Her head was held high, her shoulders squared in that peculiar human way that the Kanara had learned meant strength. Yet her eyes, those expressive human eyes that changed color in different lights, were red-rimmed and glistening. A single tear traced down her cheek, catching the nebulous light like a falling star. Silent tears, the most dangerous kind. Tiv was the first to notice. The young Kanara, barely past his first molt, had been balancing on his hind legs, trying to impress his littermates. His crest flared crimson, the color of alarm, and his voice cut through the silence like a plasma blade. Who harmed our human? The question hung in the air for a heartbeat. Then chaos erupted. 23 cubs surged forward, their smaller forms creating a tide of scales, claws, and concerned chirps. They surrounded Rhea. Not touching, they had learned early that humans needed to grant permission for contact, but close enough that she was encircled by a wall of protective young warriors. Rhea, teacher, what happened? Who hurt you? Give us names. We'll bite them. Rhea tried to smile, but it crumbled at the edges. She sank down slowly, folding her legs beneath her until she sat at eye level with the smaller cubs. Her hand reached out, trembling slightly, and Tiv immediately pressed his snout into her palm. The traditional greeting of trust. I'm okay, little ones, she whispered, but her voice cracked on the last word. Liar, Tiv said flatly. At 6 months old, he had already learned that word from her. Humans cry when hurt. You taught us this. Physical or emotional pain is pain. The cub's bluntness, delivered in his chirping accent, finally broke something in Rhea. A sob escaped her throat, and she pressed her free hand to her mouth as if she could catch it and stuff it back inside. The cubs moved closer. Not crowding. Never crowding. Rhea had taught them about personal space and consent, but near enough that their body heat surrounded her like a living blanket. Their scales, usually cool to the touch, had warmed with their agitation. I received a message today, Rhea began, her words coming in fragments. From Earth. My father passed away. 3 weeks ago. The message took that long to reach us out here. The cubs looked at each other, confusion rippling through their crests. Death was not unfamiliar to the Kanara. They were a warrior species, after all, but the concept of grief delayed, of loss that arrived long after the moment had passed, was foreign to them. 3 weeks? A cub named Sora tilted her head. But you could not attend the burning ceremony? No. Rhea's voice was barely audible. By the time I got the message, he was already gone, already buried. I couldn't say goodbye. Tiv's crest flared brighter, shifting from crimson to a deep, furious purple. This is wrong. Humans should not suffer alone. You are pack. You are ours. The possessiveness in his voice wasn't threatening, it was fierce with loyalty. Over the past year, Rhea Talon had been assigned to the Kanara's Pride as a cultural liaison and combat instructor. The Galactic Council had insisted that humanity's newest allies needed to understand human tactics, human thinking, human ways of war. But somewhere between teaching them hand-to-hand combat and explaining human idioms, she had become something more. The cubs didn't see her as an instructor. They saw her as a den mother, a pack member, a warrior worthy of their fiercest protection. Tell us about him, Sora said softly, settling down on her haunches. Tell us about your sire. Around them, the other cubs began to settle as well, forming a circle with Rhea at its center. This was a Kanara morning ritual, the Ring of Remembrance, where warriors gathered to honor the fallen by sharing their stories. Rhea looked around at the young faces watching her with such earnest concern, and something in her chest loosened slightly. She took a shaky breath. His name was Marcus Talon, she began. He was an engineer, worked on the colony ships before the expansion. He used to say that humans were meant to fly, that we'd been looking up at the stars since we learned to walk upright. She talked, and they listened. Every few minutes, one of the cubs would ask a question. What did he look like? What was his favorite food? Did he teach you to fight? Shenria would answer, her voice growing steadier with each word. Tiv stayed pressed against her side the entire time, his warm weight a comfort. When she mentioned how her father used to call her Little Hawk, the cub's crest softened to a gentle blue. "You are not a little hawk," Tiv declared. "You are a great hawk, the greatest. Your sire made you, so he was also great." The simple logic of it, the absolute certainty in the cub's voice, made Rhea laugh through her tears. It was a watery, broken sound, but it was real. Hours passed. The nebula outside shifted from violet to deep amber as their ship rotated on its axis. Eventually, Elder Cross, the den mother of the cubs, arrived to collect her charges. She took one look at the scene, Rhea surrounded by drowsy cubs, several of them now sleeping against her legs, and her ancient crest softened. "You may stay, little ones," she said quietly. "Tonight we guard our human." Rhea looked up at the elder, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you." "No, Rhea Talon." Elder Cross lowered herself to the floor, her massive form settling like a mountain. "Thank you. You taught our cubs that strength is not the absence of pain, it is the courage to feel it and continue forward. You honor your sire's memory by being exactly what you are." As the night cycle deepened, Rhea sat surrounded by sleeping cubs, their breathing soft and rhythmic. Tiv's head was heavy on her lap, his small claws gently clasping her hand. Above them, the nebula blazed like a funeral pyre made of stars. She was millions of light years from Earth, from the grave she would never visit, from the father she would never see again. But she was not alone. She was Pack. And the cubs had roared for her,